Welcome back to episode 9 of Sleepless in Mobile. I'm your host, Elizabeth. Today's podcast isn't going to be in our usual format. Today's podcast is going to be about my grandfather, Charles Moses. I'm blessed to still have my grandfather in my life. I've been thinking a lot about how a lot of people don't have the opportunity to speak to their loved ones about their stories, and for one reason or the other. And so while I still have mine in my life, I wanted to record him and share what he can with me so I can share his story with y'all, but most importantly with my family, so that my cousins and my aunts and my extended family will be able to hear his voice telling his story from him. So who better to tell his story than Charles Moses himself? So I hope you enjoy, and we'll see you next week.
All my children just about can get Social Security. My dad gave me some real good advice. When I got out of high school, graduated, man, it felt so good. Don't have to go to school. And he gave me some real good advice. He said, son, get a job. Anyway, my dad always said, he said, son, I was born with nothing, and I managed to hold on to most of it. Well, Liz came over and wanted me to record some stuff from my family and all. So, of course, this is Charles Moses. My grandpa's name was Aaron Moses, and my dad's name was Charles Aaron Moses. And my dad was born in Lumber City, Georgia. And my grandpa, Aaron Moses, he was pretty rich. He had a lot of land. He was in the turpentine business, and he had so many people working for him. He had his own country store that the workers would come get groceries and stuff, and they would charge it at the store that he owned. And me and Betty went over there not too long ago, and we seen the old store where was still standing. Anyway, Lumber City is full of Moseses, and I can tell you how they got so many Moses over there. But anyway, Grandpa was in the turpentine business, and what that is, he would chip on the side of a pine tree, and the sap would run down, and a little old bucket there would catch the sap, and they would get the turpentine. Anyway, like I say, he had a lot of land over there. But anyway, at one point in time, he owned half of Baldwin County. He owned a lot of land over Baldwin County. There was a hurricane came through. It was before 1930, but anyway, it come down and it blowed down most of the pine trees because they was easy to break. Yeah. And anyway, he lost a lot of money, but he went in business with another guy, and they went up to St. Stephen's, Alabama. Grandpa had 2 sons and 2 daughters. I had my dad, of course, Charles Aaron, and Uncle James, I call him James Moses, Lucy Ruth, and there's another daughter named Elwin. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Grandpa's first wife, she was a Bennett, and I don't know, she was over in Folsom, Louisiana. I don't know how Grandpa and got to meet her over Folsom, but anyway, she was a Bennett. Her maiden name was a Bennett. Dad and my grandpa was going fishing, and it was on a Friday the 13th, 1930. And they was going fishing. Anyway, while they was going fishing, Grandpa looked over and he see one of the black guys that was working for him trying to cut into the pine tree to hang that little bucket up. And he said, that guy ain't doing it right. Let me get out and show him how to do it. So Grandpa got out and was going to show him how to do it. He always wore a pistol in his belt. And, for protection or whatever, shoot snakes, whatever. Anyway, while he was showing him how to do it, this pistol went off. And it shot him in the leg. And it cut that big vein in his leg. And he bled to death right there in my dad's arm.
That's horrible.
Yeah, it was April the 13th. Friday the 13th.
That's pretty bad.
So in 1930 when he got killed. Anyway, after my grandma died, my grandpa remarried and had 8 boys.
Wow.
And Daddy had 8 half brothers, and most of them went back to Lumber City, Georgia. And that whole town ain't nothing but Moses's. If you ever want to need a Moses, go to Lumber City, Georgia. Anyway, after Grandpa got killed, Daddy went to his uncle Bennett over in Louisiana to stay with them, and he went to LSU Extension. All he had to do is go right across the bridge, because Folsom was right across the bridge in New Orleans, Yeah. So he was going to college over there, and Aunt Lucy Roof, she stayed in Georgia, and Uncle James, anyway, his second wife, after Grandpa got killed, he took all them boys and took all the money and sold all the land, whatever, and she went to someplace. I don't know where they went. They kind of scattered around. Uncle James went to Brewton, Alabama.
Yeah.
And there's a company over there called T.R. Miller, and they're still in business today. I called them up here a while back to see if they still had a record where Daddy was working there. But I'm going to get to it in a minute, how he got over there. Anyway, Uncle James went to working for T.R. Miller, and T.R. Miller back in the World War II, they made box factories. They made boxes for the war, where they could ship stuff in and out. Anyway, Uncle James worked for him, and he got to be a big manager over there. Anyway, Dad was over in Folsom, and somewhere or another he met my mom, my mother, which is a Corley. Her last name was Corley Kuhn, Kuhn. Anyway, they met, and they loved each other, I suppose, but they got married. I guess I got married over Folsom there. Anyway, the war was going on at that time, and Uncle James, he was a big manager over here at T.R. Miller at Brewton, and he wanted Daddy to come over there to Brewton. Mm-hmm. So Mom and Dad, they went to Brewton, and T.R. Miller, they was real big. They had houses on the property, belonged to the company. Mm-hmm. And Uncle James got my mom and dad a house right there in the company property. And so that's where me and Llewellyn was born. We was born back then, way back yonder. Anyway, I ended up with the name of Charles Holley, Holley. And people asked, how'd you get that Holley name? Well, there's a doctor. He's been dead a little while, but he was real famous over at Brewton. He called him Dr. Holley. And, they didn't have much money. And but anyway, he promised the doctor that he would name me after him. And that's how I got my name, Charles Holley. And anyway, Llewellyn was born 11 and a half months before I was. And I was born in 1937 on a Wednesday morning, 1937. And of course, Llewellyn was 11 and a half months older than I was. And shortly after I was born, I was about a year old, but I had a brother that was born. And but he didn't live very long. There was something wrong with his throat, what have you. You know, in today's medicine and all could have saved him, but back then, you know, they didn't have the stuff to do it with. But anyway, he passed away. He was about 6 months old or so. I never forget it. I remember as long as I live, the little funeral they had. It was on the edge of a lot, an old dirt road. And I remember the little hole there they dug, and the little casket they had rope. They let it down with the guy let it down with a rope, you know. And I remember it so well. And I always remember say, "Mama," I asked my mama, "How come he cries so much?" The little baby cried a lot, you know. Yeah. But anyway, I asked him. But anyway, he passed on. His name was Charles Harrell. And of course, mine Charles Holley, and he's Charles Harrell, so I don't know. I went over there, me and Betty went. Well, she was doing good. We went over there, and I tried to find the places where I was born and all, but they all tore them houses down and all, whatever, so they don't have no remembrance of it. And anyway, me and Llewellyn, I was a little old bitty fella, and Mom and Daddy worked for the box factory at T.R. Miller. They worked for T.R. Miller. And we was raised by a black lady, Aunt Libby, you know. And I remember her little house, the wallpaper was newspapers pasted up there. And her floor, she kept them floors, she had wooden floors. She kept them floors so clean, they were just shiny white. Me and Llewellyn, we never been in a car. Never even seen a car, hardly. And I remember Daddy had a job offer to come back to Mobile to work for the Alabama Dry Dock as a crane operator in the shipyard during the war. And anyway, Mom and Daddy really laughed. They tried to put us, the cab come to take us to the train station. And me and Llewellyn, we just straightened out and refused to get in that car. we absolutely just had a panic. We wasn't gonna get in that car because I didn't know what it was.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Anyway, boy, I just straightened out. I just cried, "Yeah, don't let me in there." Anyway, Mom and Dad still laughed about it, kidded me about it all my life, just about it.
How old were you?
I was about 3 years old, but I'd never been in a car, never seen one, hardly.
That would be scary.
Yeah, it would be scary. Anyway, we went to train station and caught a train to Mobile. My grandpa's brother lived in Whistler, Alabama. J.B. Moses lived over by an old Jernigan's store. There used to be a store there called Jernigan's, and the old house was there. They moved the old house. They done something with it. Don't know what they done with it, but anyway, we used to go over there quite a bit. It was Uncle J.B., my grandpa's brother, and his wife was Aunt Jewel. Aunt Jewel, yeah. Me and Llewellyn used to go over there and with nothing to do, you know. We slept on the floor there while they talked all night, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, right there in Whistler, when Daddy started working for the Alabama Power, not Alabama, but Alabama Shipyard, he bought a house right there in Whistler, which is still standing today. Of course, after Mom died and all, I went ahead and sold it and gave the money to me and Lou, you know. But anyway, Daddy bought that house and with about 5 acres of land for $1,800. And over a period of time, he sold the land, some of the land off 5 or 6 different times, you know, to get some money and sold it. Right. But that's where I was raised from 3 years old until I graduated from high school in 1956. After we moved to Whistler, Donna was born. That's my sister. Of course, she's passed away now. Llewellyn got married right there too. She got married to a home place in Whistler, and to a guy named Ward. Anyway, after he was married for one year, he had his eyes on another lady, and so they divorced, and he went with somebody else, and so that's when they had Cindy Reeves. So she died a while back. But anyway, I was raised in Whistler, had a lot of fun. We used to go out, me and Ernest Lee and all of my friends and all right around there. We knew to stay in the house. We stayed outside all the time. And we rode bicycles. I must have rode a bicycle 10,000 miles. I went to Old Whistler School at the first grade, and I flunked the first grade. Anyway, I finally made it to the second grade. I flunked milk.
Oh, my word.
That's basically it.
What was your favorite subject in school?
Yeah, my favorite subject was going home.
Oh, brother.
I didn't have no favorite subject. I liked math and stuff. So when I went up to high school and all, I had a lot of math and science and math and chemistry and stuff like that, you know.
Right.
Anyway, I had a wonderful time during the Depression. Just back during the Depression, we raised our own chickens, had our own cows, and the hogs. We raised hogs and all that. We had a lot of stuff we just raised ourselves. Grandpa Carley, which is Mama's daddy, Pearl Moses' daddy. Anyway, he would come over, and we would slaughter the hogs and all, you know, and everything. Mm-hmm. And I never forget, back then Daddy had a little old walking tractor, and we would go plow up some land for little places where they can plant something and charge them, make a little extra money, you know. And I never forget, Daddy was unloading the tractor and got it brand new from Sears and Roebuck. And he always time pulling tricks on Mama, so he said, "Pearl, come here a minute," and she came over and she said, he said, "Hold this wire here, so if I got a spark." Didn't have no spark plugged in, and so he said, "Hold this wire right here, and you touch this ground right here." She said, "Okay." Anyway, he pulled that starter. Her hair lit up. I mean, she got shocked big time.
That's horrible.
I never forget. She chased him around the house. I don't know what she had in her hand, but he didn't want to get stopped.
That's hilarious.
I never forget that. She chased him. I used to. We had a lot of fun with the kid. We fished a lot. Daddy was he worked for the Board of Health as a dairy inspector. And anyway, he had all the good places to hunt and fish and all. And we had all these private ponds to go to, and we fished all the time. A lot of times we would go back to Folsom. All our camp folks over there, there's still a bunch of them over there. Of course, a lot of them done passed on by now, but anyway, used to go over and camp out. Go over and camp out a lot. Yeah, so I had a wonderful time. My mom and dad loved me, and I had a good time. I had a paper route when I think I was in 5th or 6th grade or something like that. Anyway, I would get up every morning at 3:30, get on my bike, and I'd ride about a mile where they dumped the papers out, and put the papers on my bike, and then I would travel down Engine Street, go down, cut across to 4th Street, went on up there to 8 Mile, cut across, back on the Engine Street and come home. And then by the time I got home, I ate breakfast, it's time to go to school. So one time I got so cold that I couldn't get off the bike when I got home. My dad had to come out there and lift me off, help me get off that bike. I never forget, one time I was delivering the papers. Of course, I was on Highway 45 at that particular time going toward 8 Mile. It rained a lot, and I had to deliver a paper way back up the little old driveway, way back up in there. It flooded out, the little creek in there was flooded out, and I could hear the water, rushing. I couldn't go through there. And I heard somebody say, "Help, help." Son, I turned that bicycle around. I think I dug a hole right there on the back wheels. Anyway, I had that paper route, but 2 or 3 years. I made a little money, and enough to go to the movie, pay my way into the movies and all, Anyway, I gave it up. Another guy took it over, and he didn't have it by 2 weeks. He got killed. He got run over. Yeah, anyway, I got it back for a little while and finally gave it up for good, But like I say, I had a wonderful childhood. Like I say, we fished a lot and done this, But me and my buddies, we'd go get on our bikes and go to Chickasaw Creek. There's Chickasaw Park now, they call it, but we would go there before the park was there, and we would stay all day long. Didn't bring no food, no water, no nothing. Of course, we didn't have all the water we wanted. We drank out of the creek, We stay all day long, come home hungry as a bull. And believe it or not, back then I was skinny. I really was. Matter of fact, one thing when I was dating Betty, she said, "I feel your ribs." Yeah, I was I was soaking wet. I think I weighed about 170 soaking wet. Anyway.
How old were you when you met her?
I was, when I met Betty, I was around 19 or 20. I got married. Betty was just turned 21 when we married. And I'd like I said, we got married on April 15th. And my birthday was May the 19th, And so I liked a few days till I was 21. So Mom and Dad had to sign for me because you had to be 21 to get married back then.
How did y'all meet?
Well, I was over at my girlfriend's house on 4th Street. I was in the military. I joined the military in '56. And anyway, I joined the Air Force. Me and my buddy went up there to join the Navy, But when we got up there in Mobile, the guy in the Navy officer was gone, and the Air Force guy said, "Come on in, we'll talk a while." So we messed around and joined the Air Force, and I joined them. I went up to Lackland Air Force Base back in '56, and we had my boot training. Then I went to Scott Air Force Base, Illinois. Mm-hmm. That's up. Went up there for 6, 7, 8 months. Anyway, me and my girlfriend we supposed to got married, but her name was Nancy Highsmith, and Betty never could stand that name. Anyway, Betty's sister Mary, they was at Nancy's house on 4th Street, and I went up there on 4th Street. Well, Nancy wasn't there; she was somewhere. Anyway, Betty was working down Mobile and staying with her uncle in Mobile. And anyway, she had to get a ride home. And Mary said, "Well," I said, "Well, I can take her home." Because I like the way she looked. and I liked the way she looked at me too. So anyway, I volunteered to take her home. Well, you know, way back yonder, Pritchard was a pretty town.
Yeah.
I mean, they had parking meters and this, that, and the other. You could walk the streets and look at everything, you know. And so I said, "You want to just look around a little bit?" And she said, "Yeah, we can walk around and look some, you know." So anyway, we walked around, looked around, you know, and went by this jewelry store. And crazy me, I said, we looked at the rings, you know. I said, "I'm gonna buy you one of those one day." I said, I'm gonna buy you one of those one day."
Yeah, what did she say? How'd she take that?
She must have took it pretty good. Anyway, we laughed about it, you know, a little bit, you know. And anyway, I took her on home, and I didn't know her family was holiness. Mm-hmm. I mean, the real holy rollers. And I mean, they was really strict Christians.
How did you grow up?
I went when I was going through. Daddy was a deacon at the 4th Street Baptist Church up there, and me and Lou Ellen went to the Baptist church. She would get on the bike, and we'd ride up there on the bicycle. I remember going up there at summer school, you know, and so I was raised Baptist. And of course, all this time we was Baptist, there was a holiness preacher right across the street. I used to go visit him a lot. They had some young people my age. So they started a church right behind the house. So I used to go to the holiness church every now and then, you know. And so anyway, I didn't know Betty was, you know, her family was so strict, and she wasn't supposed to go to movies. She wasn't supposed to do this. So I didn't know. I said, "You want to go to the movie?" Well, she shouldn't have, but she said, "Yeah." But what she did, when we went out the next night, I was borrowing my dad's car. When I was come from Keesler, I was staying at Keesler Air Force Base, and I was borrowing my dad's car when I got to Mobile, and you know. Anyway, I asked her out the next night, and she agreed to. And of course, I told her, you know, my phone number and all that. Anyway, she called her house, and apparently it told them that you know, I was going out with. Told my name and address and all, and I told her dad and all that, you know. Anyway, we went out that night, and we went to the movie, and nice and friendly and all. Anyway, I took her back home for she was leaving with her uncle. Anyway, everything was fine. When I got back home, it was so strange. Uh, Mama says there's a man called. He said he was Big John, and he said that you went out with his daughter. I said, that's somebody playing a joke. I didn't pay no attention to it. Big John, ha ha ha. Anyway, the next night I picked Betty up, and we was going to go up to Chunchula there to see her folks, that little house over there, Mm-hmm. Anyway, when I walked in, I was skinny as a rail and poor. I was having a uniform on, all that. Tried to make impressive as I could. And I walked in. Everybody, there was Junior and Arthur and Mary and Ann and all them was there.
Yeah.
And I walked in and shaking everybody's hand. Her daddy come over and said, "I'm Big John." I said, his hands were twice as big as mine. And later on, he could pick up the front of a car while you change the tire. I said, yes, you are, Big John. But they laughed about it. I sat right there by the door. I sat right on the edge of the seat where I could run any time. But anyway, I found out then it was real Christian. We didn't have a church at that time, so they went to Watley Church. And only time that I was dating Betty, a lot of times I couldn't, I just couldn't date her just because she was working and doing this, that, and the other. But anyway, I had to go to church to see her.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Earl, Jimmy Earl Lloyd, I introduced him to Helen up at Watley, and they eventually got married,
Oh, wow.
But anyway.
Now, did he grow up Baptist or holiness?
Who?
Jimmy Lloyd.
He was nothing. Matter of fact, one day they had a revival going on at Watley, and there was one of them holy sawdust revivals. Anyway, when we pulled up, you could hear the shouting going on and everything. Jimmy hid in the back seat of the car. He wasn't going in. So he hid.
That's funny.
Anyway, there's a joke somebody told a long time ago about when them revivals going on, everybody, these guys were looking in the window, and they was giving a testimony service. And they looked in the window and said, "Wonder what they doing?" This guy said, "I don't know, but they sure are dreading it, ain't they?"
It sure looks like it.
Yeah. I never forget, after when Ben and Bertie got married, they fixed up the little house, and they got it ready for me to marry and everything. I had this old Mercury, and they went out there and pulled the wires. Had one cylinder that would work. Pop, 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 pop. So anyway, I didn't have no money. Jimmy Earl wanted to go. He was going to be the best man. So we went to Pritchard, and he had to buy some shoes. And I forgot to put the money in the meter, and I had to pay a fine of $20, something like that. And I didn't have but $30, and to my name. We'd pull as a whippoorwill. Betty, she didn't marry me for money, that's for sure. It was true love. Oh man.
How long did y'all date before y'all got married?
It was about 6-7 months. I was what I would do is get on my uniform. Back then, you could get a ride anywhere if you had your uniform on. Right there at Keesler, and I would walk out to Highway 90 there. They had a little place there. These airmen would like to have a ride, you know. Walk out and thumb. You went be out there 5 minutes. People stop. Where you going, soldier? So I'm going to Mobile, sir. Hop in, we'll bring you. So I would hop in. They'd stop and feed me and everything else, you know. Betty worked for Cress's and Mobile time. I would stop and get enough money from her to buy a bus ticket to the house. Then I could borrow Daddy's car.
What did she do there?
She was a clerk, sold candy.
Oh.
Yeah, she was a clerk that sold candy behind the bar. That's back when you walk in, used to be, those stores had a big area that just displayed candy, you know.
Yeah.
And that's where she worked as a cashier.
That's neat.
Yeah, she works. Anyway, going back to my childhood, growing up, you know, I had a dog named Fellow, and I got this dog. We went hunting, and me and Ernest went hunting over Sims, and squirrel hunting. Coming back, I seen this dog, and like it's about half dead, had mange and all that, you know. I felt so sorry for him. Anyway, I think I had some food or something. I throw that thing, he went over and ate that. So I went and got him and carried him home. And Mr. Brother West, which is that preacher, that holiness preacher across the street, he told me to just put some sulfur, motor oil and sulfur. So I got some of this sulfur, you know, this yellow stuff, sulfur, put it in the motor oil and rubbed it on the dog, you know, it kept him tied up. Mm-hmm. But he come out to be the prettiest dog you ever seen. Man, his hair grew real pretty.
Wow.
And but anyway, I knew he would bark. Anybody come in, you know, around the house and all, he would bark. And it was one night, it was real stormy. And, you know, I slept on a sleeping porch. The sleeping porch, I had a whole bunch of windows, you know. And but Daddy had it nailed up where you can only raise the windows, it's so high. Mm. Anyway, when it's lightning, I look at that old pecan tree out there. I could picture boats and stuff, the limbs made different things, you know. And old fella, he started barking around front. And I knew the way it was barking, there was somebody out there, you know. Ruff, 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 ruff. And matter of fact, he come on around, got right up under the sleeping porch. Ruff, 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 ruff. And it was lightning, you know, every now and then I could see out, you know. And but I felt something cold when I felt the cold wind and the rain, but somebody had the window halfway open, and his face was all distorted. Oh, God, that scared me so bad I couldn't move. I mean. Anyway, he finally run him off, and I could see him, you know, he was walking kind of crippled like. Boy, when I was able to move, I ran in there and jumped in the bed with Mom and Dad. I knew it was, that's the only time I've been really scared of anything.
Did they ever figure out, like, who he was or where he came from?
No, I never did figure it out. Anyway, me and Betty, we got married, and I had a little old house rented right there in Biloxi. As soon as you get off the bridge, a little old house right there, it was $50 a month, 2 rooms and a bathroom. And our wedding night, I tell you, I bought them shoes. Jimmy bought them shoes, and I had to pay that fine. And a brother, I can't think of his name who married it. Anyway, he was a pastor over at Cedar Creek.
Is it Corley?
Brother Corley, yeah, that's
Jack
who it
Corley?
was. Jack Corley. He's the one that married me and Betty. So, anyway, Jimmy Earl had a house that he was renting a room that he was renting right there next to the school, the first grade. That's where I went to. That's where the first grade. I never dreamed that I'd be staying my wedding night house next to the school. Ain't that something how it worked out? Anyway, we stayed the night. Jimmy let us stay the night at his house, and of course the next night we come back, and went up to her house and stayed a while. Then finally, went to we went to Biloxi and got settled down, you know. Mm-hmm. All we had while we was in Biloxi was cabbage and cornbread and wieners.
How did you ask her to marry you? Is there like a romantic story
Yeah.
there, or did you just
ask
ask
it was
her?
Real. She did just say she would marry me.
She didn't? That's funny.
Nah, yes, she did. So
how did you ask her?
I just say, you know, we were dating, and we already knew we was gonna get married. I mean, I didn't have to ask her.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Set a date.
It's real funny how, you know, back then you had to ask the daddy, could you marry? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, Junior and Arthur and Mary and all them, they knew I was fixing to ask her daddy, you know.
Yeah.
Because they was all peeping out the windows and all. Her daddy was out in the backyard and on that little porch there. He'd come in, and he knew what I wanted to do. He'd come in and on the porch. I said, "Mr. Brewer, can I talk to you a minute?" So you're looking at me, ain't you? I went,
It made you shrink down, didn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, I asked him, could I marry him? He gave me a rundown on how good a girl she was. Betty was a true Christian. She was saved. Mm-hmm. And told me how good a girl she is, and made me promise to keep her in church and all. And I tell you what, I love that little girl right up there. Mm-hmm. I mean, all the time we were married, she's always been good to me. And I can't hardly think about it now, about breaking up. So, married 64 years. 64 years. We was poor as a snake. I remember one time we was in Biloxi. We had a little old house rented. I was in the service, of course. And there was a toll bridge between Mobile and Biloxi, up in Pascagoula, a 25-cent toll. And one day we wanted to go on the weekend, you know. I can get the people we were renting a house from on the service station. Mm-hmm. So they would give me gas cheap, you know. And we had a pretty car, a 57 Chevrolet and all that, real pretty. Anyway, we scratched all over that house. We come up with 24 cents. And we couldn't go to Mobile because we didn't have a quarter.
Wow.
We was poor, but anyway, Bo was born in Biloxi. And anyway, we stayed in Biloxi for a good while, until 1960. And I got orders to go to Arabia. And anyway, Arthur, Mary, me and Betty, I had to go to South Carolina and to catch the plane and go overseas. And so we drove to South Carolina, and I got on a plane. When I went to Arabia, I went to all different. You know, I was in ground radio, but part of my training was in TV. Mm-hmm. So when I got to Arabia, I worked in a television station, and boy, I had a lot of fun. I never laughed so much in my life. Anyway, it was a little one-man TV station just for the bass,
Yeah.
And sometimes they could see us, they did different oil settlements out in the desert. They could hear us pretty good, get us. But we actually operated the TV itself, come on the air, put it on the air. We watched a lot of movies. We had to watch every movie, take everything, the Star of David, anything like that, had to take it off because we was in the,
Yeah.
Arabia.
Yeah.
And didn't want nothing Jewish.
Right.
Nothing Jewish. I had to cut it all out, And here I was with a name like Moses,
Yeah.
So
Challenging.
I had the opportunity to get my own radio show. They said, whatever you do, don't you say your name on the radio. Like Charles Moses,
Exactly.
No.
It's not the best name in those kind of areas.
Anyway, when I was there, I had a chance to go to Germany, Spain, all these different places to look at how they done the television stuff, and all that. And Betty, bless her little heart, she wrote me every day. Every day. And I was over in Germany, of course, it took a while for the letters to catch up with me,
Yeah.
So there's a guy, we was in school, doing this, that, and the other, and the guy went to get the mail. He come in dragging a bag, a big old bag, and then a little bag. He said, you won't believe it, but all this Moses. Betty wrote me every day. Oh, she wrote me every day. You know one thing about Betty? All the time we was married, if I stayed in the hospital a lot, I had every kind of operation you could think of. And all the time we was married, when I was in the hospital, she never would go home. She would stay right there. And she'd stay right there and sleep in that chair. If I was there now for a week, that's where she stayed.
Yeah.
She wasn't, she never left me. And that's the reason I loved it. So when she was in that old folks home, she was in there for 8 years. I went every day. I think I missed 30 days in 8 years. It was 50 miles round trip, but I went every day. And people kept saying, why do you want to go for? She don't know you're there, but
she knew.
Yeah, but I know.
And she knew.
So I wanted to be all the time. But anyway, we came back from overseas. I was coming back home from Arabia, and we landed in Madrid, Spain, to get more people on the ship, on the plane. Back then, it right before the jet service, we had a 4-engine job, and that's right before they started transporting everybody with jets. Anyway, we loaded up in Spain. I mean, all the GIs, that thing was loaded up, all our stuff, and all that, and took off right before dark. And I mean, we were loaded down. He got on the end of the runway and it seemed like forever to get back airborne. Anyway, we took off and started climbing. I guess we got about 2,000 feet up in the air, and the guy come running out of the front of the plane. He shined his flashlight on the. I was sitting there where I could see the motors. He shined his flashlight on one of the motors, and he come running back toward the front. I said, wonder what's going on. I don't know. It wasn't 30 seconds later, that engine caught on fire. And, oh man, the plane started dipping, started coming down, Everybody was praying. The Lord heard some strange voices that night, I guarantee you. Anyway, it finally, the other 3 engines finally caught up, and we climbed a little bit. They circled around Madrid there at the air base, dump fuel, and finally we landed. And I had to wait a week for them to replace the engine. And so Mom and Daddy and Betty was was South Carolina waiting on me. So they had to wait a week. And before I got there, so they had to stay there, wait on me, you know. Mm-hmm. Came back home. But anyway, good Lord answers prayer, you know. Anyway, I was about the last one. I was up front. I was about the last one to get off. And Mom and Daddy and Bo and Betty was right there standing. There was a fence there, and they was on the other side of the fence. So I stopped, you know, and you know, Betty, you know, and Bo said, "Mama, how come you picking out the ugliest one?"
Oh my word.
Anyway, when I got home, we had orders to go to Panama City, at Tyndall Air Force Base. Doreen was, I don't know what's wrong with my throat. Doreen was born there. Doreen, Kim, and BJ. Mm-hmm. All three of them was born right there in Panama City. And later on, after we moved out of there, got out of service. What it was, I had 6 months. I had 12 years. I was going to stay in the military. I was in there already almost 12 years, and I was going to make a career out of it. And but anyway, I had 6 months before I had to re-enlist again. But I got orders to go to Turkey. And I don't know why they always wanted to send me to a place like Turkey and all them Arabs were and all. Anyway, you had to wait 3 years to get your family over there. So I'd be over there 3 years without Betty, and Betty'd be here in the States with 4 kids for 3 years. I said, no. I said, I can't do that. I'm not going to extend. They said, if you don't take this assignment, which is a special assignment, if you don't take this assignment, we're going to force you out of service. I said, well, bye. Anyway, I chose my family over my career, so
yeah.
12 years were gone. And
so did they give you an honorable discharge?
Yeah, 3 of them.
Wow.
Every 4 years I got an honorable discharge. So anyway, got out of there, and anyway, back then jobs were pretty plentiful, but they didn't pay much. I was in electronics, so I was looking for an electronic type job. There's a lot of them open, but didn't pay hardly nothing. So I was up there, I was up there, and the guy said, well, there's a place called Shell Chemical. They were taking applications upstairs. I said, I don't know anything about chemistry. That's the only thing I flunked. She said, they'll train you.
Yeah.
I said, okay. I went up there and got my application. And come back, I was staying at a bed in Mom and Daddy temporary till we got us a house, you know. Mm-hmm. And I filled it out. I put all kind of bull on it, all kind of stuff. Anyway, I filled it out, and I was going, Junior and Arthur, they wanted an application. So I went back up there with them, and they got an application. Well, I turned mine in. So you turned that in already? I said, that's right. I said, yeah, this place ain't going to start up without me. I was just full of bull, you know, I just filled it. Yeah. Anyway, it wasn't long after that. I know I was at Uncle Barry's house right across from where Betty used to live, Uncle Barry there, brewer. Mm-hmm. We was out there in that peat patch, picking, doing something. And Mary or somebody said, Charles, Shell Chemical called, wanted you to come take a test. I said, okay. Anyway, I went in the next day, and they wanted me to take a test, you know. So simple test. It would, you know, I aced it. I mean, it was kind of simple, simple assignment.
Mm-hmm.
So in high school, I took all this math and stuff and science and this, so all that stuff, was second half.
Yeah.
Anyway, they must have been impressed with it, cause a week later they called me in. They want to come in for an interview. So I come in for the interview, and back when I was in Tyndall, I was the trainer NCO. I had the opportunity to go all these different schools and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I had the first choice. I had a stack of diplomas. I know 15 diplomas. And so I showed them this was that, this was that, this was that, this was this was that, and that. They go, eyes got bigger and bigger. And I know they was really impressed with all that bull.
Yeah.
And anyway, they said, we'll let you know. So a week later, they called and said, Shell wants to interview you again. So I went back and I talked to the plant manager. And anyway, we talked. I told him, said, if you don't hire me, it'll be the biggest mistake you ever made. He said, is that so? I said, that's right. I said, you'll be glad you hired me. Anyway, he said, I'm going to try it. You're hired. They hired 21 people. They had 3,000 applications.
Wow.
21 people, and I was one of them.
That's crazy.
Boy, I tell you what, old dummy here.
You did something right.
I had so much bull, they couldn't believe it.
Oh, God.
Anyway, all kind of things that happened. Me and Betty, I had all kind of operations, open heart surgery. I thought I was kind of got the flu bug or something, so I went up to the hospital with. I was going to Turnerville Church at the time, and Robin was a pastor, so him and I went to emergency room, and I finally got to see the doctor. And while I was in there, the doctor done the EKG and said, "There's something going on." He said, "You're having a heart attack right now." I said, "My goodness!" And so it was. He said, "We need to. I mean, this is bad. You need to schedule an open heart surgery." So anyway, it was scheduled. And I had to go through that open heart surgery and all that. And when I was recuperating, Betty was with me, of course.
Mm-hmm.
She was told me this, told me that, and this, that, and other. And we was up there in Spring Hill, where I was at. It was late one evening. She started feeling bad. She said, "I don't feel good." I said, "Honey, go to the emergency room. We right here at the hospital. Go to the emergency room and see what's going on." She went to the emergency room, and well, she didn't come back for a while. Anyway, I finally went to sleep. When I woke up the next morning, they said, "Your wife just had open heart surgery." It was so bad when she went to the emergency room, they had open heart surgery then. So
That's crazy.
I was in the same thing. I was in the emergency room, open heart surgery. She was in the emergency room, open heart surgery. That's the way the good Lord works. He helped us out on that. Both of us had open heart surgery. And, of course, I had all kind of different operations. My stomach looked like a crossword puzzle. Like interstate map.
Oh, my goodness.
Anyway, I had a wonderful childhood. My mom and dad loved me. I love them. My sisters, they love me. All my sisters, of course, they all gone now, Llewellyn and Donna, all them. A lot of my friends gone. So I don't know. I'm 86 right now. I'll be 87, and May the 19th next year, at 24. I don't know why the Lord keep me alive this long, but anyway, I'm just glad I'm here. I praise Him for everything. For the years I got saved in 1959, and in November 1959. No, it was 69. I got out of service in 68. 69. Anyway, when I got out of service, Betty's mama gave everybody, all the children, 3 acres of land. And anyway, we got that 3 acres, and we built a house in Turnerville on the 3 acres, and built a 18 square foot house with old Chicago brick, deep well, and everything. The whole house and everything. The land was free, but the whole house and everything was just $1,800.
Wow.
And anyway, we kept it 7 years. I sold it for $35,000, and come here and paid down on this lot right here where I'm at now. Was $10,000 way back under. Yeah. And we built the house, of course. I've been here about 40 years more. And but anyway, the good Lord's been good to me.
Yeah.
I tell you, I have no complaints at all. He's always been there, always helped me, always come through, kept me safe all the times. I should have had wrecks I didn't have. A lot of times I should have died and I didn't. But like I say, I'm still here, so all I can say is I love the Lord and all my children, grandchildren, and all that. Liz, I love y'all. I pray for y'all every day. And it surely gets lonely around here. Nobody hardly comes around. Nobody calls Holley. My friends that all passed away, and so I really don't have nobody. Just the kids every now and then come around, you know. But he gets give me a lot of time to pray and all, to seek the Lord. So I just waiting to go home. That's what I'm doing. That's all I'm doing. Just one day at a time.
That's right.
I pray the Lord that He have His way, you know. And but I had a good childhood. I was born when America was really America. You could leave your doors open at night. You never did hear about anybody getting divorces. You never did hear about anybody having a baby out of wedlock. That just didn't happen back then. And people had a different standard. And anyway, but I grew up in a time when America was great. I loved America. Like I say, I joined the service. I gave my life for my service, for the America. As a matter of fact, when they gave me the orders to go to Turkey, I talked with Betty. I said, well, if we can get a 12-month assignment, will you go along with that? So, yeah. So I volunteered for Vietnam. I was in service 8 years while Vietnam was going on. I volunteered for Vietnam. I volunteered for anything for 12 months. And no, you're going to Turkey. It's special order. So that's the way it worked out. I had to get out. So
yeah.
Anyway, but I had a wonderful life. I have no complaints. I had a wonderful childhood. When I was going with Betty, of course, I got saved in 1969. I was smoking. I smoked all the time I was in service. And It was 1969 in November. I was smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day. 3 packs a day. Of course, back then I could get them for 20 cents a pack. And when I was overseas, you could get a whole carton for $1.05, and less than about 10 cents a pack. And but it wasn't very high nowadays. I think I don't know what it is, $6, $7, $8, $10 a pack now. They're real high. But I was smoking 3 packs a day. I tried to quit. I would throw them out the window, go to church, and I didn't feel like the Lord saved me. Well, next day I was out there with a flashlight trying to find my cigarettes. Anyway, one Sunday night, it was during the day on Sunday morning. Oh, brother, I can't think of his name, brother. Anyway, he gave an altar call, and I went down to the altar, and the Lord saved me. Never touched another cigarette but one time after that. He just took the desire away. I know one time, about 6 months later, I was at work and it was storming, and the guy lit up a cigarette and said, "Give me one of those." I lit it, and I threw it away. And smoked 3 packs a day and never smoked another one. Ain't that something?
That's crazy.
Anyway, when I retired from DuPont in 1990, and started my own little business. I made a lot of money in my business. And
what did you do?
I was all the time I was working. I was an industrial hygienist. I went to school, got certified as an industrial hygienist, and anyway, when I retired, there was no industrial hygienist that was free to do anything. Yeah, all the people I knew and met and all during the time, they was working for different companies. But here I was, free, could go anywhere I wanted to. So I started advertising and started getting these jobs. And I didn't invest a lot of money, but anyway, I kept getting more and more jobs, and made more money, bought more equipment, this, that, and the other. And made a lot of money. I know one time, me and your dad and a friend of mine, and I don't know who else. There was 3 or 4 of us went to Selma. There was this plastic company. We did all the work for all the tests for everything for the maintenance people. And we worked 3 days and I made $13,000.
Wow.
Anyway, I sold the company. I had 300 people company. Anyway, I sold it for $186,000 cash. Liz, I've been too old. It ain't no fun growing old. You have to be tough. Dad bought a brand new, I never forget, 1955 Chevrolet. Man, that was got a V8 in it. That's when it come out. They come out with a V8, and I bought it. I was going squirrel hunting, and me and Ernest and his brother Jack, and Jack bought a brand new shotgun. He was going to take and shoot some squirrels. We was going down this dirt road over Sims. Off Lot Road, we went down Lot Road, and then got on the dirt road. Went on down there about 5 miles where we usually squirrel hunt, And I said, "Boys, this thing got a passing gear. Let me show you." One, I hit that passing gear, went around a curve, and didn't make the curve. That thing went off on the hill, rolled over about a dozen times.
Oh, no.
Hit a pine tree way down in there, below the hill. bent it all up. Anyway, I got cut above the eye a little bit. Ernest wasn't hurt at all. I don't know how we got out of it. Jack wasn't hurt, but his shotgun would look just like that. It was crooked.
Wow.
Oh, man. We called to the house, and Mama don't know if anybody hurt. Daddy won't know his car, what happened to his car. Anyway, I was working at the Red Seal grocery store in 8 Mile. I worked out after school, and I had to work there and pay for get the car fixed, Daddy's car. Anyway, that's here now. So anyway, a lot of things happened. All my friends, just about over Louisiana, all the older folks, they passed on, and went on to heaven. Went on somewhere. It's gonna be a great day one day, a big reunion day.
That's right.
And I'm like old Paul said, "O death, where's thy sting? O grave, where's thy victory?"
How would you like to be remembered?
Be remembered.
Mm-hmm.
I like to be remembered as they say I had a mean streak. I never had no mean streak. I like to be. They said I was a huff and puff. I like to be remembered as a big teddy bear.
Oh, goodness.
But people saying, "You ain't never been no teddy bear. You huff and puff." No, it's my voice. It's so low. I mean, it's certain. I could call somebody on the phone 10 years later. "Oh, this is Charlie." They recognize my voice.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like I'm really grumpy when I'm not. Because my voice is so low. And I like to be remembered that I love my children, love my grandkids, even though I got so many now. A lot of them ain't never seen Holley. They wouldn't know me if they run over me. Anyway, 41, Liz. Altogether, I got 41. Ain't that something?
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. And it was Betty and the milkman.
Oh, my word. She loved you too much for that.
Yeah, I know it. I didn't have to worry about Betty doing anything like that, that's for sure. She kept me in church all the time we was down in Panama City. We got baptized together. We were down the old Chicks and Bow place right down at the bridge, right there at Chicks and Bow.
Mm-hmm.
There's a swimming hole right there. And one Sunday afternoon, everybody got down there, and Brother Huey played the guitar, and everybody sung and all. And me and Betty was baptized. That water was cold. I can't think of his name. But anyway, he waded out in that cold water. He went, "Ooh, ooh, ooh." Anyway, we was baptized, me and her together. Of course, she was already a Christian. I guess she just got baptized again.
Mm-hmm.
But we was baptized and started going to church right there at Turnerville. And I always thought, even when I was young, at Whistler, I used to sleep in that little old Navy bed, It was made out of metal, taken off of a ship. Anyway, it'd be bad weather and cold, and I would, even as a kid, I'd thank the Lord for keeping me warm, keep me dry, keep me warm. I had a tug on my heart all the time. And I was actually called, I thought it was called to preach way back yonder. And I told the preacher about it, but I feel the calling, because every time I went up to Cedar Creek, they wanted me to lead prayer service and do this. And every time I went up there, they wanted me to do something. And he said, we'll pray about it. Anyway, when I was at Turnerville, they asked me to teach Sunday school. And way back yonder. So I started teaching. Mm-hmm. And I taught Sunday school for a long time in Turnerville. Then all the kids started going to over there at Sims. What's the name of that church? Allentown, yeah. Started going to Allentown, and brother. So they asked me to teach there. Mm-hmm. So I taught Sunday school there when Brother Neil was there and all for a long time. Then I left there and went to Cedar Creek. And Neil did ask me to do anything there. But anyway, I taught Sunday school for years. Mm-hmm. But I still feel like I missed my calling. I wanted to teach. I wanted to be a preacher. A lot of times Brother Neil said, you're not teaching, you preaching. But anyway, I enjoyed that. I wrote down all the things I taught on. I got them in my computer even now. Just about word for word, you know. Mm-hmm. And hours and hours I studied, you know, pray and study. So I really enjoyed that, teaching Sunday school. Mm-hmm. Well, that's all. That's all I can think of. I don't know. Anyway, I like to tell everybody I love them. Tell my children I love them. My grandkids, I love them. I love my neighbors. They've been so good to me, my neighbors. Jerry Suter and David Thornton. Nowadays, they help me mow my grass. They do this for me and what have you. And but I want everybody to know that I'm just waiting to go home. I want to go home. But all the time, till now, the Lord has had his hand on me. He kept me safe. He looked after me. He done this. He done that. And so I'm just a product of his love. So like I say, we all are. I'm here because of his love. I never dreamed I would live to be 86 years old. And only problem I have with that, I think I'm 21. And I try to do a lot of things I can't do no more. I love to cook, though. Living by myself here, I'm a good cook now. I love to cook. I get in there and experiment. Yeah. I make gumbo. I see anything crawl or do anything, I throw it in there. Oh, gross. I experiment. Like the other day, I cut some potatoes up. I put mustard on them. I seasoned them up, put mustard on them, coated them with flour, and fried them. And they were good. I bet they were. They crunchy. They were crunchy on the outside and soft on the inside. All right, Liz. I didn't tell all the bad stuff. I keep that in the closet. We'll let the Lord deal with that. All my children just about can get Social Security. My dad gave me some real good advice. When I got out of high school, graduated, man, it felt so good. I had to go to school. And he gave me some real good advice. He said, son, get a job. Anyway, my dad always said, he said, son, I was born with nothing. And I managed to hold on to most of it.